Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we'll talk to a serial entrepreneur who rose to the pinnacle of his industry and then who decided to take a right turn. His incredible journey is just ahead.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, I am so inspired by entrepreneurs. That's why you see so many of them on my show. I'm a little starstruck by the guy sitting next to me because he's achieved more in his young years, 39 years old, than most people will achieve in several lifetimes. Dru Riess, thanks for coming on the show. He's a family man, great father, great husband, serial entrepreneur, and mentor. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. I appreciate it. I don't know if I'm all those things, but we'll soon find out.
I want to start with, there's so many people quitting their job. The Great Resignation is a real thing right now. And so many young people are saying, well, Mark Cuban did it. Zuckerberg did it. I'll just start my own company. How do you know if you're cut out to be an entrepreneur?
How do I know if I'm cut out to be an entrepreneur? That's more of a gut thing, an instinct thing. If you're good at taking rejection, or at least blocking out, the negativity of pitching your dream to somebody, your parents, your friends, and them hating on it, or saying something like, well, you'll never be able to do that because of this, this, this. If you're somebody that can have tunnel vision, focus on the prize at hand, and just in your heart of hearts know what you're capable of, I'd say you have a pretty good shot of being an entrepreneur.
And you also have to have a magic thing called grit that not everybody has. I want you to watch Dru's story.
I had my ear to the ground and I was willing to take almost anything. I knew nothing about printing. I knew nothing about this industry, but I said yes because I ultimately envisioned whatever it was, I was going to build it to the best. I was going to give it my best, and I was going to see how big that could become over the next decade. My name is Dru Riess, and I'm the founder of Popular Inc. here in McKinney, Texas. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, was a military brat, was a C student all my life. Growing up, my mom would work as a receptionist at the local YMCA, and my sister and I would have to go to work with her every day. So my sister and I grew up, just looking out for each other and knowing that we had each other's back through good and bad times. I moved to Colorado Springs and I landed my first job selling payroll door to door. I was actually at my apartment swimming pool, and this other young guy, Ray Salinas, was sitting there, and we hit it off as just buddies. And we talk about this aspiration both of us had for getting to the next level of success. But we really had no idea what we were going to do to get there. So Ray was traveling, and he would come back through Dallas every once in a while. He met a girl down here whose stepfather was a big real estate developer. The gentleman asked him, hey, do you know anybody like you that's hungry, tenacious, that would want to start a printing company? I've got a side investment of mine that I know nothing about. And I said, no, I don't think I want to do that. But before I got off the phone with him, he tells me, are you sure? It's like printing on a chip bag. So I go and I Google and I type in printing on a chip bag, and it says the flexible packaging industry in the United States alone in 2007 was a $29 billion industry. How much confidence do I have in myself that I can go get 0.0001% of that market and turn my whole life around? August 1st, 2007 was my first day here in McKinney, Texas. And I go and I meet this gentleman, and we drive out past where civilization is, and he comes up on this steel barn and he's saying, this is it. This is what you have to build whatever you want to build with it. And whatever you do with this, I'll give you 49% of it. I went through all the filing cabinets, 10 years of history, tried to figure out who the customers were, when they left, what kind of products were run on this machine. We hired a guy off Craigslist then that knew how to run this model of press, and he taught me how to run it. So I was obsessed living out there. I had a cot I would sleep on. 8 months after I got the ball rolling, Ray, the original guy that I met in Colorado Springs, called him up and said, you want to be a part of this? I'll give you 50% of anything that I ever owned. And the guy was making 6 figures. There's no reason he should have taken this. He always tells me to this day, there's an it factor that he believes that I had, and it was worth taking a risk and following. And I think it's paid off for both of us. So the first customer I actually cold called off of the list that I made from previous customers. I shed a tear across the table from this gentleman, and something told him, okay, we're going to give him 1 PO, but if he messes up, don't ever email, call, nothing. He gave me that ultimatum, and I said, deal. It was a really hot brand that was being sold in GNCs, Walmarts, all over the country. They started to believe in us for more than just that one brand, and they gave us Nutrisystem as our second customer ever. And all of a sudden, before we knew it, we were running 40 hours a week between those 2 powerhouse brands. And people thought we were a 50-employee company, thought we were a $50 million company. We always made sure our guys got paid, but Ray and I would skip payrolls. We forfeited our late 20s to do this. We never once had a social life. But you ask yourself, do I believe in myself? Am I able to shut out the outside world and just focus on the prize at hand? And that's what Ray and I were able to do. I hired my sister as the first office employee right out of college. I've always kind of taken her under my wing and thought this is my responsibility to make sure our lives are different than how we grew up. We were able to actually find a local investor who was willing to co-sign on a loan for us to go buy the old printing press away from the developer. Everything just seemed to start clicking then. And we moved into our first 24,000 square foot facility that would actually put us on the map nationally. We kind of came in and we did things our way. We would listen to purchasing managers and their pain points of what was going on with the competitors. The lead time seemed to be 4 to 6 weeks. To this day, our average lead time is about 10.3 days. We are the fastest in the world. Part of building this was about legacy. I wasn't raised the way I'm able to raise my children now. There's a sense of security with that, and there's also a sense of I don't want them to grow up with a silver spoon in their mouth. I want them to have the same work ethic or that same it factor that somehow I was able to obtain by going through some of the hardships.
Oh, that was amazing. Very impressive. Well, one of the cool things that came from that whole journey is a book. It's called Sleight of Hand, An Entrepreneur's Bag of Tricks. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I don't usually talk about the book. It was more therapy for me to kind of write down as I went through some of the hard struggles during the bootstrapping days to, just horrible moments of being an entrepreneur, because not everything is glitz and glamour. And nobody seems to want to talk about the frustrations of, I can't even finance a purchase order. I have customers, but how do I get the money to pay for the raw materials to even, convert this into a finished good? So I started just writing down these miraculous things that would happen. Are they godly things when money would just show up, or we'd get lucky as all could be? And I just started I just started journaling all these different moments, and years later accumulated to a book. And I was like, this has to be told, and not to really anybody anymore. I think I'm glad I wrote it down, more so for my children. So when they read it, they'll read something and they'll know that, that was my dad's voice when he was in his late 20s, early 30s. Because obviously, as I approach that 40 number in 12 months, because my birthday is actually in 2 days, I'll turn 39. It'd be interesting to see what I would write now in this part of my life, or maybe in the next 10 years, because I know it would sound a lot different than a book that I wrote when I was in my early 30s.
Yeah, I think you're early on in the chapter of the book that you're continuing to write. You also are a very popular speaker. We've got some video of you on your TED Talk. Tell us about the TED Talk.
Yeah, the TED Talk was a great opportunity as well. It was just an opportunity for me to talk about that it factor, that you've got to know whether you have that, and are you capable of blocking people out? I use this word, kind of a mix of motivation. You've got to have motivation, and then my first name being Dru. So I put the first letter of my name and the word motivation together to form this demotivate.com website, where the TED Talk was about let people demotivate you, because if you have that it factor, you're going to take that as fuel, and you're going to turn it into the reason, the why. You're gonna go on this journey, and it feels so good when you do accomplish your dream.
Yes.
To look back and remember those people that doubted you, and to just subtly, send them an email or something that say, hey, you may want to check me out now.
Well, I think one of your secrets to success is some humility. You were telling me a story right before we went on the air about a time when you knew you kind of messed up inside the company, and then you went out to Bed Bath & Beyond. Tell that story.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So there was a time, and it's in the book, where as a leader, you gotta feel what's going on within the organization. You've got to be visible and present. I'm a type of guy that's always out on the shop floor, and I could tell there was some hostility towards me, and probably based on or due to my actions and the way that I was putting off negative energy due to stress. You know, it was during a very stressful time of building the company. And I thought to myself on a Sunday, I've got to stop, you know, because I can feel it's affecting everyone. And any negative person inside an organization can bring it down, let alone the leader. You can't be that way. And I probably have more stress than most people, but I took reflection, went to Bed Bath & Beyond. Actually, I had to go to 2 Bed Bath & Beyonds in North Texas and cleaned them out of a very expensive pillow. I stocked the conference room full of pillows, and I actually gave a speech to every shift. We ran 24 hours a day, so I held this town hall meeting 3 times in 24 hours and apologized to every shift about my actions, told them what I was going to do to better myself as far as getting more rest, start working out, try to handle the stress in a different manner. And the same pillow I bought for myself to try to sleep better at night, I bought for every individual, asking them to please bring their best foot forward every day when they come into the company and own it.
I think you might have a leadership book in you sometime. Give us an update on your career, because I teased at the beginning of the show, your career took a right turn. What happened?
Yeah, I just knew it was time to move on to something else. I had accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish as far as building a printing company. I was nationally known by all competitors. There was actually a celebration, from what I hear, from one of my biggest competitors in California the day they heard that I had resigned. And I resigned pretty abruptly, but it was the right time. And you know, my sister said it best, Drew, whether you do this today, because she's the only one I really, you know, counseled other than my wife, and she actually works there, but she said, you're gonna let somebody down, whether it's today or whether it's in 2-3 years. So don't worry about other people. Make the decision that's best for you. And I had accomplished everything. I wondered what's next. There's got to be something more. The job became redundant. You know, it was just almost too easy at that point. So I made a decision during COVID, June of 2020, to just hang it up. And I said, you know, I'm done with printing. And I said I was done with printing forever, mainly because I had a 5-year non-compete already signed. So that felt like forever. I'm 30 months away from being able to do it again. So I'm not saying forever. I might get back into printing. I have all those ducks in a row if that's what I want to do. But I want to win a championship ring. I use sport analogies a lot. And a championship ring to me means building, scaling, and selling a company for a beautiful multiple. I want to do it in another industry, and I want to do it with another team. It's just something inside me that I think will fulfill me, to know that I'm not a one-hit wonder, and just, you know, to catch another wave, if you will.
Well, another thing you were telling me before we went on camera was it's been great for your marriage. It's been great for you as a dad. Talk about that.
Sure. The first time, so in June 2020, I resigned, right? And I've got an itch. Was it the right decision? Was it not? And I spent 7 months at home. But what I did during those 7 months was desperately look for what I was going to go do next for my career. It was bizarre. I didn't decompress. I didn't, you know, stop and just enjoy, you know, what do they say? Smell the flowers and enjoy time with my wife and my children. I was just so focused on, or maybe scared of what's next. So I took a job, a consulting job, and I did it for 9 months. I knew immediately it wasn't the right fit. It lasted 9 months, and I came to the realization I need to truly take a break this time. And so in September of 2021, I did step back again, and this time focused on my marriage, became the head coach for my kids' sports, and just right now I have the best marriage in the world. Like, we're doing very, very well and in the best place ever. And so I recently just got a phone call to possibly do some consulting that may lead into something else. And my wife looked at me with a smile and said, you're ready. And, you know, we are ready. We can handle whatever's to come because we're strong as a unit right now.
Wow. And that's so powerful, because I know so many people, regardless of whether they're an entrepreneur or not, they're grinding so hard, and they'll say, well, I'll pay attention to my marriage when we're retired on the beach. But you might not still be married if you ignore your marriage.
Yeah, no, I'm guilty of those things. Oh, we'll get to it, you know, next year, or we'll do it in a month, and then it just gets pushed back and pushed back. You've got to understand your partner, your wife, or your spouse's love language as well. And it may not be the same as mine. For me, it's admiration. I like when people, you know, praise me or say, hey, you know, this is awesome that we're doing this together. And that's how I get my cup filled. It's not monetary. You can offer me, you know, $100 million, and I'm going to probably say, no, I'd rather do it this way because, you know, this fills me up more. But, you know, everyone has a different language, and just be in tune with what that is for your significant other.
Okay, we're almost out of time. So final thoughts. What would you like to leave people with?
You know, final thoughts. If you are an entrepreneur, you're going to go into something like, you know, dive into something like this. take a lot of pictures. It's one of the number one pieces of advice I give of the beginning days. Because I joke with my business partner when we started, we never took pictures. We complained a lot about where we were in that moment, but how awesome would it be to show my children now, where we started, and we don't have that. So I try to tell people, take as many pictures as you can every month, every year, so you can at least look back on the journey. Because whether it's a huge success or it's just a temporary thing, you can still look back on it, and it's a lot easier to take pictures now too, because you got cell phones and such that do that. I think when we started the company, we had Blackberries that didn't even have cameras on them. But that, and then my last piece of advice I always give people is tell people where you're going. Paint them a picture of where you're going and not where you are right now. People have to be teased and have to have a reason to buy from you or to want to see you succeed. So give them that illusion of where you're going, where your vision is, and have them meet you there in their minds. And they're going to be more willing to help you get there.
Wow. Drew, I'm so inspired. We need to hang out more often. We're going to end with Drew's website, which is demotivate.com. Get a hold of him for all your needs. I mean, speaking, the book, consulting, mentorship. You're amazing.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
That's it for now. We'll see you next time.